Okay, so welcome to today's video where I will be talking about the types of depression. Now, if you didn't watch the first video, you can always check in the description link below where I talked more about what depression is, what are the causes of depression, what are the symptoms of depression, and what are the treatment methods that are currently available for dealing with depression. So in this video, I'll be going a bit deeper into the topic to talk about the different types of depression. Because when depressive symptoms exhibit themselves or are manifested in a person, sometimes they would include some symptoms and exclude some other symptoms. For some people, it happens during particular times in their life, maybe during grief or when they're having a baby or when they're pregnant, or it could happen following a particular, during a particular season, or it could be like for a longer or a shorter period of time. And that's what I was trying to say. So what I'm going to do now in this video is to explain to you the different types of depression. And it's so important for you to know this because when you're speaking to your therapist or your psychiatrist or your doctor, they would know what treatment methods are best suited for your symptoms of depression that you are exhibiting. Okay? So now the first type of depression is major depression disorder. As usual, I have my notes. So I'll be looking down sometimes to read what I have written down here, just so you know what I'm doing. So the first type of depression is major depression disorder. Now, we're very familiar with this. Unipolar depression, it's just depression. It's the clinical depression that we all talk about. We're having conversations. When a person goes to a therapist, they're like, oh, and that the therapist or the psychiatrist diagnosed me as having clinical depression. This is more often what they're talking about. Now, people with major depression experience the symptoms of depression almost every day, but more often than not because it's so intense and it happens over a period of time. So it's a severe form of depression that causes symptoms such as despondency, gloom, or grief, where you have difficulty sleeping or you're sleeping too much, you lack energy, you're tired, you're eating too much, or you don't have any appetite to eat at all. You have unexplainable aches in your back, you're feeling pain in different parts of your body, and you've lost interest in activities that you were normally interested in doing, or you're overeating, and you have unexplained aches and pains in different parts of your body. Your back is hurting you, your stomach is hurting you, your head is hurting you. You lose interest in some of the activities that you used to find pleasurable. Maybe going to the movies, maybe going to visit friends, maybe having drinks after work. All of a sudden, these things don't provide you any source of joy. You lose concentration, you have memory problems, and you struggle with making decisions. Your focus is affected, your attention is affected. You find that even at work, your productivity level as well starts to reduce. You have feelings of worthlessness and hopelessness where you start to think, I don't deserve to exist, I don't deserve love, nobody likes me, there is no way I can get out of my situation, there is no point living or looking forward to tomorrow. You're constantly worrying or in a state of anxiety, and finally you start to have suicidal thoughts, or you also start to think of ways to commit suicide, and some people end up actually attempting suicide. Now, your doctor might diagnose you with major depressive disorder if these symptoms have been experienced for 2 weeks or longer. So like many mental health conditions, it has very little to do with things that are happening around you, because some people are in situations where they have positive family relationships, they have great friends, they have a good job, but they are still depressed. So it is important for you to speak to a clinician and to speak to them as honestly and as openly as possible so they can help you pinpoint what exactly could be causing you to be depressed, even though everything around you looks like it should be perfect. Now, the second type of depression is called persistent depressive disorder. Now, this is depression that lasts for 2 years or more. It's a more chronic kind of depression. It's also known as dysthymia. Now, persistent depression may not feel as intense as major depression, but it can still cause strain in your relationships and affect your productivity levels and make doing your daily tasks very difficult. So symptoms that you may have are a change in your appetite, you start to eat too much or you eat too little, lack of self-esteem, you don't feel confident in who you are, you don't feel like people deserve to listen to you or to see you, and you give yourself just like less of everything that you get around you. You sleep too much, you sleep too little, you have trouble concentrating on focusing on your work reading, paying attention to conversations, and also when it comes to making decisions. You feel a sense of hopelessness that just lasts for a very long time, which can also make you feel like life is not really worth living. Like you tend to now develop this sort of negative attitude towards life. You have the inability to feel joy. Even on happy occasions, a child is born, someone is getting married, you will find it very difficult to be able to connect to the joy that is happening around you. And then also you notice that there is social withdrawal, which is you start to isolate yourself from your friends, your loved ones, and you prefer to spend more time on your own and at home. Now, it's a long-term type of depression, but the severity of the symptoms can be less over a period of time. So this means that you can go, it happens like in waves. So let's say for January and February, you feel very depressed. And then by March, April, things start to get a bit better. And then after a while, let's say in June, July, the symptoms might worsen. And then after a while, it would reduce in intensity. So it's like that. It just goes up and down in terms of intensity. Some people have had episodes of major depression before or while they are even having persistent depressive disorder. The thing about persistent depressive disorder, the major thing about it is that it lasts for a long period of time. Some people have depression for such a long period of time in their life, years and years, and don't even know that they're depressed. So when they go to a therapist or a psychiatrist and they have a conversation with them, and then they find that these symptoms have been going on for years, you are most likely to be diagnosed as having dysthymia. The third type of depression is bipolar disorder. Now, bipolar disorder deserves a whole topic of its own, and I plan on talking about it on my IG Live sessions. So I do these IG Live sessions once every month where I pick a particular mental illness and I talk about it, or I go in depth to discuss a particular topic that has to do with relationships and mental health and mental wellness. So if you are interested, you can just go on my Instagram page, follow me on Instagram, it's NDD, and just be aware, so you can be aware of like when I'm when I'm going on a live session. The last one we had was on narcissistic personality disorder. So the next one might be bipolar disorder, or it might be borderline personality disorder, I don't know. But just follow me on Instagram so you're up to date. Now, bipolar disorder has two types. The first type is you have to have had at least one experience of mania that has lasted for over 7 days and maybe or maybe not required hospitalization, and then you experience a depressive episode before the manic episode or after the manic episode. Now, a period of mania is a period where you feel very happy, and it's more than that actually. People tend to make reckless decisions at that time and sometimes can become a threat to themselves and a threat to the people around them. Now, you can have either mania or hypomania. Now, for hypomania, it's a less intense form of mania, and it's an important symptom when it comes to diagnosing if a person has bipolar disorder type 2. Now, to be diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2, you have to have experienced no manic episodes, or you've had one or more hypomanic episodes, which is then followed by one or more major depressive disorder episode. So hypomania is less intense. So bipolar 1, mania and depression. Bipolar 2, hypomania and depression. Okay? Now, depressive episodes in bipolar disorder are the same ones as in major depression. Feelings of sadness, emptiness, lack of energy, fatigue, sleeping problems, trouble with focus, decreased activities. And then the signs of a manic phase would include high energy, reduced amount of sleep, feeling easily irritated, having racing thoughts or speech, grandiose thinking, which is like an elevated, unrealistic sense of importance, an increased self-esteem and confidence, unusual, risky and self-destructive behavior, and then just this feeling of being elated, high, and very euphoric. So now having that manic episode would have these symptoms, and then right after it, you have a major depressive episode. Okay? Now, the third type of depression is seasonal affective disorder. Now, I don't know if anyone here in Nigeria has been diagnosed with having this, because whenever I study about it, it's usually people who are in European or American countries where they have significant weather change, like they go from winter to summer to fall, and as the seasonal patterns change, then they get into a depressive phase. So usually the symptoms will begin during the times of fall leading into winter, and then after winter is over and then spring has started, people's moods start to improve as well. So some of the symptoms that a person who has seasonal affective disorder will exhibit will be social withdrawal, increased need for sleep, weight gain, and then also a daily feeling of sadness, hopelessness, and unworthiness. It can get worse as the season progresses. So it could start at fall and then get worse as winter comes along, and sometimes it can also lead to you having suicidal thoughts. But once spring rolls around and the sun has started to come out, it can tend to improve. Usually during treatment of SAD, people are given these LED lights that they can shine on themselves, which sort of in a way replenishes or makes them feel a lot better, to replace the fact that they're not getting as much sunlight as they normally should. But yes, seasonal affective disorder is a thing. So the fifth type of depression is psychotic depression or major depression with psychotic features. Now, some people with major depression also have psychotic episodes where they lose touch of reality. And that's what psychosis actually means. It's like it involves hallucinations, that are seeing things that are not there, and delusions, which is like believing things that are not real. So experiencing both of this together, that's experiencing psychosis and depression at the same time, is what psychotic depression actually means. So the person is really, really sad, but at the same time, they are seeing things that are not there and they are having delusions as well. Now, some of the symptoms are hallucinations, seeing things and hearing things that aren't there, delusions, having false belief systems or false beliefs actually, and then paranoia, which is a feeling that people are trying to harm you. When people have major depression with psychosis, it tends to be a bit violent and aggressive, especially because of the part of paranoia where they start to act out, and because they strongly believe that people are actually trying to harm them, coupled with that deep feeling of sadness and sense of hopelessness. So the next type of depression is perinatal depression and postpartum depression. Now, perinatal depression, which is also known clinically as major depressive disorder with peripartum onset, occurs during pregnancy or within 4 weeks of childbirth. Now, if it's depression that happens after childbirth, it is known as postpartum depression. But before and during pregnancy, it is perinatal depression. The hormonal changes that happen during pregnancy and childbirth can trigger changes in the brain that will lead to mood swings. And also there is a lack of sleep, and also the physical discomfort that accompanies being pregnant and even taking care of a baby. All of these experiences can cause a person to either develop perinatal depression or have postpartum depression. Now, contrary to popular belief, people, when you say postpartum depression, they're always thinking about the woman. They think it's just women that experience postpartum depression, but that's not true. Men as well can also experience postpartum depression. And when I'm doing a video that is specifically focused on postpartum depression, I will go more into that. So some of the symptoms of perinatal or postpartum depression include sadness, anxiety, anger or rage, exhaustion, extreme worry about your baby's health and safety, difficulty taking care of yourself and taking care of the baby. You struggle with forming a connection with the baby, and then also then evolves into thoughts of harming yourself and thoughts of harming your baby. So women who lack support tend to, more often than not, end up becoming depressed. So they are at an increased risk of falling into a state of depression, either perinatal or postpartum, but it can really happen to anyone. So the next type of depression is situational depression. Now, situational depression is self-explanatory. Depression that is as a result of the situation that you're in. So the events happening in your life can actually cause you to be depressed. It's not because you have any long-term issues like childhood trauma or any significant personality problems that might be causing you to be depressed. It's as a result of the space that you find yourself in. So examples of these situations could be going through a divorce or a separation, going through grief because you lost someone, losing a job, like the COVID-19 pandemic as well. It's as a result of the pandemic that some people are becoming depressed. So it's a situational type of depression. Being in an emotionally or physically abusive relationship, being unemployed, or even struggling with financial difficulties. I think this explains that term where Nigerians are like, oh, if I give you money, don't worry, your depression will disappear. It is very possible that just because you don't have money, you have ended up in you've ended up in a state of depression. It is called situational depression. And if someone gives you money, which takes you out of that situation, you definitely will start to feel better. So don't feel crazy if you realize that anytime you're broke, you become depressed. It's actually a thing. All right. So now the next type of depression is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Now, it is a severe type of premenstrual syndrome. Premenstrual syndrome is a collection of symptoms that happens to a woman right before her period. So most women would notice before your period starts, a few days, you're either craving for a certain kind of food, you're feeling really moody, you're feeling easily irritated, like just seeing some things just make you want to cry. Being in some spaces makes you feel far much more uncomfortable than you normally would. So that's PMS. But when it becomes really severe, some women tend to experience premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Now, these psychological symptoms are far much more severe than those that are associated with PMS, like I said. And for some people, they will feel much more emotional in the days leading up to their period. And for the women who end up getting premenstrual dysphoric disorder, it may become even more severe, like a severe form of sadness and feelings of misery and depression. And it affects the way they handle their day-to-day work. They find that they can't even get out of bed because they feel so gloomy and tired and miserable and weak. So some of the other symptoms are cramping, cramps, bloating, breast tenderness, which is a normal PMS symptom anyway, headaches, joint muscle pain, like your back may start to hurt, a deep feeling of sadness and despair, irritability, anger, extreme mood swings where you're snapping real quick and you're not even sure, like you as a person, as you're snapping, you're like, why is it hitting me so deep? Like it's really not that serious, but you feel it so deeply. You may even have panic attacks, you may engage in binge eating habits, lack energy, and as usual with every type of depression, you will struggle with focus and attention and concentration. And you may also have sleeping problems as well. So it is believed to be related to the hormonal changes that are happening in your body, and they start to ease up soon after you get your period. So when your period comes and passes, you start to notice that all those feelings that were intense before are not as intense as they were in the beginning. Cheers. Now, depression, irrespective of the type of depression you have, is actually treatable. So there is no need for you to continue to suffer. Whether it's a persistent type of depression, major depression, bipolar, it can all be managed and it can all be treated. But it is so important for you to actually open up and ask for help. If you suspect that you fit into any of the categories of the types of depression I spoke about, please do well to reach out to me, or you can reach out to any of the people and NGOs whose details I'll leave in the description box to ask them for help, because I know that not everyone can afford therapy. So these spaces where you can get free consultation and help are actually very useful. Thank you so much for watching this video till the end. I am grateful. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section and I will do well to read them. Don't forget to subscribe and to click on the notification bell so you know when I release a video. And also to follow me on Instagram. It is @Ndidi, so that you can be up to date with when I release videos on YouTube, when I do IG live sessions, and even with some of the interviews that I do with companies to help them learn how to create healthy workspaces for their staff. So I will see you at the next video. Take care of yourself and have a lovely day. Bye.